Hello, welcome to OJ Studios. Please enjoy this week's chapter of Punishment 2, Return of Amanda, by Olivia Julius. I looked at Emily, who as of yet, has not spotted us standing in the doorway. Instead, she is just doing her stretches as she talked with some of the other girls in the class. She is wearing the same pink leotard that Brittany and I are wearing, the same tights, the same ballet slippers, everything. She looks so much like the other girls in the class, but I know who she really is. Memories of the last time I saw her floated through my mind. Emily was there when Rhea tried to tell Brittany that I was really a boy. She was there when Rhea threw a fit after losing Easter Princess. She was also there when Rhea picked on me at the shoe place. Even though they didn't pick on me to my face. Emily is friends with Rhea, so that means bad news for me. I took Brittany by the arm and pulled her back into the small room that we were in before. Brittany obeyed, and once we got out of the classroom I looked to see if anyone was around. "What are you doing?" Brittany asked, watching me. "Are you kidding me, Brittany?" I asked. "That's Emily. The same girl that wanted to expose me for being a boy, remember?" "She didn't," Brittany said, crossing her arms. "That was Rhea, remember? Emily stood up for you when Rhea told me who you really are." "She's friends with Rhea," I countered. Brittany looked at me. I could tell that she was frustrated at me, but I didn't care. "Not anymore," Brittany said, rolling her eyes. "My goodness, boys are impossible." "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked, but then the door opened, and Emily stuck her head out. "Is this a bad time?" she asked before she got out of the doorway and allowed the door to close all the way behind her. I glared at her as I tried to figure out what to say. Emily just looked at me and then at Brittany. Brittany sighed loudly and took both of us by the hands and guided us into the other door that was marked the storage room. This room smelled of dust, and when Brittany flipped on the lights, I saw rows and rows of racks full of girly costumes. "Okay, Emily, say it," Brittany said. Emily looked at Brittany and leaned on a shelf that was full of ballet slippers. "Why, she's not going to understand," Emily said. "I bet you, she will," Brittany retorted. Emily sighed a little bit. "I'm sorry about last year," Emily said. "Why would I believe you?" I asked, crossing my arms. Gracie looked at Brittany, obviously annoyed. "Look, Rhea was a bad person. Have you seen Mean Girls?" "Yeah, that's her," Emily said. "I moved to the same town your aunt lives at 3 years ago with my 2 moms. I was new, I had just moved from St. Louis, and Rhea was there to welcome me. It was only a year later that she became meaner to other kids, and I guess I wanted her to like me, so I also became meaner to the same kids. I just wanted to fit in." "So, what changed?" I asked. "Last year after Spring Princess, when Rhea found out that you are..." She trailed off. I could tell that she was unsure what to say next. "That I am really Adam?" I said, finishing her thought. "That I was a boy wearing a dress?" "Yes," Emily said, seeing Rhea react to that made me wonder what Rhea would say about me if she knew everything about me. I decided not to be friends with Rhea anymore after that, and we drifted off. I even changed my ballet classes to the studio so I wouldn't have to interact with Rhea anymore. "Like what?" I asked, a little more annoyed than I meant to be. "But I mean, what could Emily do to be picked on by Rhea?" Emily shifted a little and looked over to Brittany for help. Brittany just smiled to her and mouthed for her to keep going. "Adam, I know your secret. Brittany told me about your punishment, and how you became Amanda during your vacation last year. I looked over at Brittany and wanted to yell at her for telling Emily why I was dressed like a girl for. but Emily just put her hand up to stop me. "Don't be mad at Brittany, she only told me after I proved to her that I was trustworthy." Emily took a deep breath, and I could tell that she is going to tell me something big. "So as an act of trust I am going to tell you, my secret." "What?" I asked now, wondering how Brittany could find Emily at all trustworthy. Emily stood up straight and smiled a little. I could tell that she was trying to gather as much strength as possible to tell me. "My name at birth was not Emily. I was born Michael Jacobs. I was born male," Emily said, and when she saw that I didn't say anything she continued. "I am transgender." "What?" I asked. I looked over to Brittany and she nodded. "How? Why?" I asked. I looked at Emily, not sure how to ask any of the questions that have formed in my head. "How much time do you have?" she asked. Before Emily, Brittany, and I were born, there were two women named Emma and Bridget that loved each other. They are Emily's mothers, and their act of defiance has changed their lives and the lives around them forever. This is their story.
Both Emma and Bridget's families have been living in Georgia for generations. Emma's dad is the pastor of a Southern Baptist church in rural Georgia. Her mother is the piano player for the Sunday services. Bridget's dad is a deacon in the church and her mother is the Sunday school teacher for the third grade kids. Both girls grew up together in the same small town. They attended the same Christian private school from kindergarten to 12th grade, and ever since they met, they were inseparable. Emma Butler was the nice girly girl who always went to school wearing her jumper perfectly. She was the model student who made sure that she followed every rule with perfection. She was star pupil, and every teacher loved her. She was the president of her class's student government, and she was the valedictorian of her class. Bridget Jacobs, on the other hand, was a rebel. She somehow always got demerits because she would always do something to her uniform so that it wouldn't pass dress code. Bridget's grades were C levels, and she didn't care what her parents would say about them. When the two became teenagers, Bridget admitted to Emma that she liked girls, which was against the rules of the church. Emma, being her friend, agreed to tell no one. It took Emma until she graduated to admit that she had feelings for a girl. When Bridget pressed her on who, Emma's cheeks went a little red with a little bit of embarrassment before she admitted that she had deep feelings for Bridget. The night that Emma said she had feelings for Bridget was the first night that the two girls shared a kiss in Emma's car. At the end of the summer, they were secretly dating. They would tell their parents that they were just hanging out at each other's house. Secretly, though, they usually went to a small lake in the middle of nowhere to be alone. Emma found out that she got accepted into St. Louis University. She feared that this meant that her relationship was over with Bridget. But then Bridget came up with a plan to follow her to St. Louis so she and Emma could date without their parents knowing. 1 year later, Bridget proposed to Emma at their favorite restaurant. Both women decided to tell their parents, hoping that they would be understanding and loving. Unfortunately for both Emma and Bridget, both sets of parents decided to distance themselves from their lives. Soon the money for college that Emma's parents had been sending quit coming, and Emma was forced to leave school and work as a waitress. Now on their own, Emma and Bridget Jacobs got married a few months later in a small barn just outside of St. Louis, Missouri, with just their friends from work. It was spring of 2011, and even though gay marriage wasn't legal and wouldn't be legal for another 3 years in Missouri, Emma and Bridget decided to get married anyways, just not officially legally. Bridget rented a cheap white female tuxedo from a rental store. Once she got out of Georgia, she swore off ever wearing dresses and skirts again. Mostly because she was forced into a dress every Sunday by her parents. Emma bought a white strapless ball gown as a wedding dress. She'd always wanted one of the dresses as a prom dress, but her conservative parents wouldn't allow her to. She smiled as she walked down the aisle to her future bride. Both women looked beautiful, and both were happy. After the ceremony, they both kissed as they became Mrs. and Mrs. Jacobs. Neither of their parents were in attendance. Both were not invited. A year later, one of Emma's co-workers announced that her teenage daughters became pregnant. The teenage girl, Mindy, planned on giving birth to the baby and then giving the baby up for adoption. After a few days of talking with Bridget, both Emma and Bridget offered to adopt Mindy's baby once the baby was born. Mindy agreed, and 6 months later Michael Jacobs was born. Michael was born a happy and healthy little boy. The 5 pound 5 ounces little boy was no bigger than a loaf of bread. The little boy had a full head of hair and came out screaming. To Emma and Bridget, Michael was the most perfect baby in the world. Right there in the hospital room, they promised that they would do anything to make this baby the happiest person in the world. Little did they know that this was going to be tested in ways they had not realized. Both Emma and Bridget decided to keep Mindy as a close friend and to keep her in the loop with Michael. They all joked that Michael now had 3 mothers, so nothing could go wrong for the newborn baby boy. At the age of 3, Michael became best friends with a girl at preschool named Michaela. Michael's teacher told Emma and Bridget that the two were inseparable. When it was time for playtime, the two played dolls or house with each other. When it was nap time, the two slept next to each other on their mats. When Michaela and Michael turned 4, Michaela told Michael that she was starting to do ballet just like her sister. Michael begged his mothers to allow him to go to ballet too. After a few days of proving that he wanted to be in the class, Emma and Bridget finally signed him up for the same ballet class that Michaela went to. They bought Michael the required shorts and light purple tank top that boys wore to the ballet preschool class. Michael was overjoyed that he was going to be in the same class as Michaela. However, once he was at the class, he saw that he was not only the only boy there, but he was also the only one that was not wearing a light purple leotard. Throughout the half-hour-long class, Michael couldn't help but wonder why he didn't have a leotard. The girls seemed to like the leotards more than Michael liked his shorts and tank top. After his class, he asked Emma, who he called Mama E, why he couldn't wear the leotards like the girls were. Emma didn't know how to respond, so she just told him to go to his room and get ready for dinner because Mindy was coming over. Michael's face brightened and he ran upstairs to get ready, already forgetting the question he had asked. Did he really ask why he couldn't wear a girl's leotard? Bridget asked, walking behind Emma. He did. Emma said, don't worry, next time he asks I'll tell him why he can't wear one. Good. Bridget said, folding her arms. No way I'll let him wear girl clothes. Later that night, after Michael went to sleep, Emma and Bridget invited Mindy out on their porch and watched the traffic go by on the interstate. The 3 women talked for a few hours. Then the subject turned to Michael. So, Michael wants to wear a leotard to ballet class. Emma said. A leotard? Mindy asked. That would be fun. Are you going to get him one? Of course not. Bridget said with a scoff. He's not a girl. The 3 women went silent for a few minutes before Emma changed the subject. But unknown to Emma and Bridget, Mindy was starting to scheme a little. The next day, Mindy showed up at the Jacobs' front door. Emma let her in, and Emma, without saying a word, went up the stairs and into Michael's room. Michael was sitting down on his bed working on a coloring page. What are you doing? Bridget asked, following her in. Trying something. Bridget responded. She knelt down in front of Michael and grabbed a girl's leotard from her bag. Michael's face brightened when he saw the leotard, but the opposite was true with Bridget's. Absolutely not. Bridget said, taking the leotard away from Mindy. I will not have my son wearing girls' clothes. He is a boy, he should act like a boy. Emma walked in to see what the commotion was. She walked in just in time to see Mindy and Bridget standing toe to toe, looking like they were going to fight. What's going on in here? Emma asked. Look, you all got kicked out of your parents' lives because you two came out as lesbians. Mindy said. Don't let your prejudices affect Michael too. She grabbed the leotard and instructed Michael to get undressed so she could help him get it on. Michael nodded and did as he was told. We will not let you. Bridget said, now balling up her fist. I will let him. Emma said, facing her wife. Mindy is right, we don't need to be like our parents. Our parents didn't want us dating. Bridget countered. And you don't want him wearing girls' clothes, it's the same thing. Emma said, holding Bridget's hand. Remember the promise that we made when Michael was born? That we will let him love who he wants and be who he wants to be? Bridget asked. And this is when we test that. Emma said. Who knows, maybe he will want to wear girl clothes, or maybe this is just a phase he's going through, but this should not be our decision. If we pretend it is, then we are no better than our parents were. With a sigh, Bridget nodded, and Mindy helped Michael into his very first girl leotard and his very first girl clothing item. Michael walked around the room a few seconds getting used to the leotard, then he smiled and started to do the moves that he had learned in ballet. He smiled at the 3 women and then hugged Mindy. Over the next 4 years, Emma and Bridget let Michael have some girl clothes, but made him promise that he could only wear them at home and when no one was visiting them. This was mainly Bridget's rule. Over the years, Michael was given several dresses, skirts, and tops. He also has a lot of ballet leotards, so when he practices, he can practice in what he and his mothers call girl mode. Michael was given a small closet to keep all his girl clothes in so no one would see them in his bedroom closet if they were visiting. Michael often went to school every day, being envious of the girls that attended the school with him. He often wondered why they all got to wear dresses and skirts to school, and he couldn't. For the past 2 years he had been growing out his hair, and often he would tuck his hair behind his ears like other girls would. Michaela is still his best friend and often joked that Michael was more of a girl than she was. If only she knew. If only she knew that Michael secretly felt more girly than boyish. When Michael was in his girl mode, he always walked to the mirror in whatever he was wearing and stared at himself. His brown hair was now long, something he had to convince his mother Trinity to let him do. One day when Michael was getting ready for ballet class, he asked Emma, not for the first time, why he couldn't wear his girl's ballet leotard for. This was the first day of this year's ballet classes. Emma began to tell him that he shouldn't, that Bridget would never allow it. She closed her eyes and told him to wait in his room. Confused, Michael walked up to his room and sat on his bed. His male leotard and shorts were laid out on his bed. He thought about putting them on, but decided not to until his mother came back. It took 5 minutes for Emma to get over to Michael's room. In her hands was his girl's leotard and a pair of white ballet tights. "Put these on," Emma said, throwing the items to Michael. Michael caught the clothes and then looked back at his mother. "I just got off the phone with Miss Windsor," Emma said. "She said you can wear a girl's leotard as a trial basis." Michael's eyes lit up and he ran to his mom and gave her a big hug. "Just do me a favor," Emma said. "What?" Michael asked nervously. "Don't tell Bridget," Emma said. "Let this be our little secret." "I promise," Michael said before hugging his mother again. Both Emma and Michael picked up Michaela for ballet practice like they always did. Before they got to her house, though, Michael looked at his legs and sighed as he started to have second thoughts. He reached up to his hair, which was done up in a ballet bun. It was weird having it up there. He started to wonder what everyone would think about him wearing the leotard. Michael had been dreaming of this day for a long time. He always wanted to know what it was like to wear the purple leotard and white ballet tights out in public like the girls in his ballet class does. But what if his mother Bridget was right? What if Michael was better off hiding the fact that he likes wearing girl clothes? Just when Michael was about to tell his mother that he had changed his mind, Emma pulls into Michaela's parking lot and Michaela jumped into their car. Michaela started to talk rapidly about how she couldn't wait to start this year's ballet classes and that she hoped that she would get a role in the end-of-term ballet recital. She had not seen Michael yet, and with every passing moment Michael's anxiety grew. Finally, after a whole moment, Michaela looked over at Michael and froze as she finally noticed that the two of them were wearing the same girly outfit. Michaela gasped as she realized he was wearing the leotard. Several times she tried to say something but couldn't. "Just say it," Michael said, sounding gloomy. You look amazing," Michaela finished, interrupting him. "I knew you were really a girl." "I'm a boy," Michael said, correcting her. "No," Michaela said, now pointing at Michael's heart. "You are really a girl in here." Michael didn't say anything. What Michaela said made sense. Was he really a boy on the outside and a girl on the inside? Michaela gave Michael a big smile and pulled him into a hug. "I can't wait till we get to class," she said. "By the way, what do I call you?" Michael looked at her questioningly and Michaela rephrased her question. "What is your girly name?" Michael hadn't even thought about that. All these years dressing up as a girl, he never thought about what his girly name should be. His mother's always called him Michael, no matter if he was in boy mode or girl mode. "I don't have a girl name," Michael admitted. "Well, then I'll call you Emily," Michaela said proudly. It only took Michael's classmates a few minutes before they got used to Michael now being called Emily. Surprisingly, not one of the girls in the class questioned the fact that Michael was now in a girl's leotard, and they didn't question the fact that Michaela was insisting that everyone call him Emily. Emma sat in the parents' waiting room. She watched what was going on in the in-classroom via a large screen TV. She had hoped that this would be the outcome of what the girls would do when they met Michael's girly side. But she was also on full alert for any sign of problems with the other girls. She was so into watching her son on the TV that she didn't see another mother named Abby come up behind her. "So, is Michael transgender?" she asked. Emma looked over Abby. She had no idea what Abby was talking about. She certainly never heard of the word transgender before. "I'm sorry, this isn't my place," Abby began. "I was just curious, and I help with this great group downtown." Abby gave Emma a business card and looked at it. "Do you think Michael is transgender?" Emma asked. Abby looked up to the screen and then back to Emma. "Ask Michael if he is your son or your daughter. The choice is not up to me or you." Abby dismissed herself and Emma looked back up to the screen and watched her son, wondering if Michael was really her daughter. That night Emma walked into Michael's room. Michael was already asleep in his bed. He was wearing his favorite purple nightgown. With his long hair that Michael asked to be put into pigtails for the night, and Minnie Mouse blanket, Emma couldn't help but wonder if Abby was right. Emma turned off the bedroom light and began to close the door when Michael woke up, briefly sitting up. "Mama E, thank you for letting me be Emily today," Michael said. Emma looked behind her to see where Bridget was, and satisfied that Bridget was nowhere around, Emma walked into the bedroom and closed the door. "Did you like being Emily?" Emma asked. Michael nodded his head. Emma paused, unsure of what she was going to ask next. "Honey, do you wish that you were a girl?" she asked finally. Michael looked scared for a moment and then nodded yes. "Am I in trouble for wanting to be a girl?" he asked. "Of course not," Emma said. "Good, because I want to go to school as Emily, and play with my friends as Emily, and do everything as Emily." Emma smiled a little. "Maybe one day you can, but for right now let's see how ballet goes as Emily." "Okay, Mommy E," Michael said before he slowly drifted off to sleep. Bridget kissed Michael on the forehead and got up from his bed and left his room. In Emma and Bridget's bedroom, Emma found Bridget quickly pacing the room. She looked nervous, which automatically put up red flags to Emma. "What's wrong?" Emma asked. "I got something to tell you, and it's big," Bridget said excitedly. "I do too," Emma said, "but you tell me your news first." "I got a promotion at work," Bridget said. "That's great," Emma said, but then stopped when Bridget didn't celebrate with her. "What's wrong with the promotion?" Emma asked. "It's in the middle of nowhere in the northern part of Missouri. We must move up there by the end of the month and leave St. Louis behind." "So, we'll move up there. What's the big deal?" "You're okay moving to a small little town?" Bridget asked. "Are you okay with it?" Emma asked, embracing her wife. "Yes," Bridget said. "Then we're moving," Emma said, taking Bridget in for a long romantic kiss. Bridget pulled away from her wife. She was so happy, but then the next question came. "What do you think Michael is going to say?" Bridget asked. "That's what I was going to talk to you about," Emma said, backing away from Bridget. Sensing Emma's hesitation, Bridget invited Emma to sit on their bed. Emma did and sighed. "Today I took Michael to his ballet class," Emma said. "Okay?" Bridget said questionably. "I took him wearing a girl's leotard," Emma said, preparing for Bridget to get angry. But there was nothing. Emma looked at her wife and saw her quietly giggling to herself. "What's so funny?" Emma asked. "I already know," Bridget said, surprising Emma. "I got a call from his ballet teacher after his class." "Are you mad?" Emma asked. "Nope," Bridget said. "The last few years has softened me to the idea of Michael maybe being more girl than boy. I didn't say anything because I guess I was just trying to hold on to the idea that I still had a happy son." "Well, he told me that he wants to be a girl all the time now," Emma said. "Do you think he will be happy as a girl?" Bridget asked. "Happier than being a boy," Emma replied. "Then I have a plan," Bridget said. At 3 p.m. the next day, Bridget walked into Michael's room. Michael was sitting on the floor playing with a Lego set that he had gotten for Christmas several months ago. He looked up at his mother and then back down at his toys. "Michael," Bridget began as she carefully sat down next to him. "Yes, Mommy B," Michael said. "We're going out to eat tonight," Bridget said, "and I want you to look nice." Michael sighed and got up. He walked over to his closet and grabbed a blue sweater, knowing that that's what his mom would want him to wear. "Michael, I got something else for you to wear tonight instead." Bridget grabbed a bag from behind her and handed it to him. Michael looked at his mother questionably and opened the bag. His eyes lit up when he saw a black dress, a pair of white tights, and Mary Jane dress shoes. "Really, Mom?" Michael asked. "Unless you prefer to wear that sweater," Bridget replied. "Thank you," Michael said excitedly as he hugged his mother. "You're welcome, honey," Bridget said. That night Emily made her debut as a girl. Her two mothers took her out to eat at their favorite restaurant. Both Bridget and Emma noticed that Emily didn't seem scared or afraid. Instead, Emily seemed to be in her element. Almost like she was born for this. Emma was the one who spoke first about the potential move. Bridget and Emma both agreed to wait to talk to Emily about their plans while they were eating their desserts. "Look, Emily, there's something we need to talk to you about," Emma said. Emily took a bite of her ice cream and nodded. "Look, Bridget got a new job, a better one. But it means we must move far away," Emma said. Emily looked at her mothers with wide eyes. "When?" she asked. "Next month," Bridget answered. "That means next week we need to start packing up and getting ready to move." Emily thought for a moment. She knew that there had to be a reason why her mothers were being so nice to her for. It was just to make her happy about a move. "There is one more thing," Emma said. She grabbed a hold of Bridget's hand and they both took one of Emily's hands. "This is up to you," Emma said quietly so no one in the restaurant could overhear them. "When we move, we want to know if you would be interested in being our daughter full-time." "Like just at home?" Emily asked. "Like everywhere, you will be known only as a girl. Only a few people there will know that you are Michael." Emily looked at her mothers and she just stared at them. She had been hoping for this moment but never thought it would come. "Are you serious?" she asked. "Like this isn't a joke, is it?" "Of course not, Emily," Bridget said. "So, what do you say?" 2 months later, Emma parked her car in the visitors' parking lot. Emily got out and waited for her mother to also get out of the car. Today was the first day of school and the first day of Emily attending school as a girl. Today she was wearing a pleated purple skirt with a purple graphic t-shirt. She felt nervous and couldn't explain why she was nervous for, but she knew that it was either because she was at a new school, or because she was going to the new school as a girl. Emily's new principal met them at the entrance. There standing with the principal was another girl the same age as Emily. "Welcome, Emma, and welcome, Emily, to our school. I'm Mrs. White, your new principal," Mrs. White said. "Emily, this is Rhea. She will show you around and take you to your new classroom." Rhea reached out for Emily's hand. Emily looked back to her mother and with a nod from Emma, Emily took Rhea's hand and they both left down the hall.
"So, Rhea wasn't always so mean?" I asked once Emily was done telling me about how she became Emily. "She was," Emily said and then stopped for a second as she thought about what she was going to say. "Look, I was just so glad to be known as a girl that I didn't seem to notice that I was going down to Rhea's level. I didn't know how far I had gone until Rhea saw your ID. For that I am sorry. I should have known better." I thought about what Emily told me. "I have no idea what it's like to finally be who you are just to be dragged down by Rhea's bad influence." "I forgive you," I said, putting my hand out for her. She looked at me and smiled as she shook my hand. "Okay, you too," Brittany said as she looked at a small clock on one of the shelves. "We need to get back to the studio, it's almost time for class." "Come on, Amanda," Emily said, "it's time to show you ballet."